Hi, everyone. Here is my strategic approach for my selected social policy issue, which is childcare in the US. And I do want to focus more on Maine. Let's get started. So, from my research and all of the work that we've been putting into the class, I really want to address that childcare is a human right. And I have been finding that it's full of disparities through employment in our nation. It impacts gender roles and child development. So, to go off of that, families, single moms in particular, and working parents face disparities within our childcare system. 73% of Maine children under the age of 6 live in households where both parents work. So, this is now a majority of our future that are going to daycares and using childcare facilities to spend most of their time while their parents are working to afford their basic needs as well. So the pandemic really impacted the labor market, especially childcare facilities. But I do want to address that working mothers have pulled out of the workforce twice as likely as fathers to stay at home to take care of child care responsibilities. A lot of the research that I found was mostly on heteronormative families. I wish I had more statistics at this time to show other family kind of setups, but I thought this was really important to acknowledge when talking about childcare and women in the workforce. So my principles of approach, I do want to address and advocate that childcare stimulates our economy, supports child development, and allows families to spend meaningful time with each other when working parents are home. So my plan is to advocate for affordable childcare, for it is a human right. So this is a social justice issue, and it can no longer be seen as a private problem because billions of families are struggling right now with this issue. For child care centers are closing down. Families and parents are losing jobs with the pandemic, and with inflation, it's very hard to afford childcare and paying for necessary items like housing, food, bills, and so forth. So the other side of this is childcare facilities and how there are high turnover rates and job insecurities because the employees aren't being protected where they work nor valued. So that kind of leads to my next kind of point that I've been researching when kind of trying to think of my social advocacy. Is that we need to be viewing the childcare workers as essential workers within our childcare system. So we need to be urging state and federal governments to build policy to protect childcare centers and their workers. With the Lane text, I was kind of inspired by unionizing these workplaces and facilities so that these childcare centers and employees are protected. They can have time off. They are able to have paid time off for sick days and just have that support that's needed, and financial support especially. I'm not sure if I put it in this presentation here, but most childcare workers are women and women of color and are only being paid $12 an hour, which is not sufficient during these times anymore. So just advocating for the vulnerable caregivers and being able to invest in these folks that are raising our future generation. So I really was inspired by the child care plan for Maine from Governor Mills, which was signed this past summer. And they do have a lot of potential with their plan to improve access, quality, and the workforce. So they plan to give $2,000 stipends to newly licensed childcare facilities just to improve access, because there are a lot of childcare deserts, and especially in rural areas. So there is a gap in care, and it is not distributed equally. A lot of child centers had to close, especially in rural areas where they're underfunded. So just being able to get those back up running again and being able to support them at the government level would help address these gaps, and not have families struggle so much trying to find childcare and trying to make sure that they are able to actually find proper care for their children too. So just based off of where someone lives shouldn't affect their human right to get childcare. So it's also great because one of their plans is to cover licensing fees. So childcare providers have to upgrade licensing fees from time to time, and it's great that for the next 2 years they do plan on waiving this. I do hope in the future that this might inspire the government to be providing for these fees, just because this is something that is necessary to our economy and overall economics, to have these proper licensings and qualifications that our caregivers are having. So it should be universal. So I also really was into their plan. They have like a second phase to be able to build out curriculum for childcare to support emotional learning. I think that's just really great. It's not just just making sure that the childcare centers are investing in their in the children and teaching a lot of stuff that maybe can't happen at the home because they're not home as much as they once were, because a lot of children have both working parents. So timing's very tricky to figure out here, but I do think a long-term effect of viewing caregiving as an essential responsibility to our society will be a long-term goal, but it is essential since it is essential to our society, and we need to be investing in our caregivers, not just in the home, but in these facilities. So countries such as France spend over $5,000 on each kid in their country than the US each year. So the citizens of France actually pay more taxes for social programs like childcare services and view it as an investment in the long run. And I really believe that if this happened for the United States, there would be a lot more job stability, and it would honestly protect children's cognitive development and education outcomes. And also, of course, help childcare workers and working parents. I do kind of have this idea of having childcare facilities unionize, just because it would protect workers and potentially help in reducing the burnout for the childcare workers. They need to be supported because this is an essential service to our country and our state, whether it's at the community level, state level, or national level. So we will see where this goes, but this was all really great, and I can't wait to watch your presentations as well.